Every episode of Tulsa King hides its truth in plain sight, but episode 4 takes that to another level. This is where the show starts whispering secrets instead of shouting them. Every glance, every pause, every camera angle feels like a clue left for the audience to decode. It's not about what people say anymore. It's about what they don't. The episode transforms from a crime drama into a quiet puzzle, where even a single object on a table can change the meaning of a scene. One of the first hidden clues comes early. During a conversation between Dwight and Bodie, they're discussing business. But what's important isn't the dialogue, it's the setting. Behind Dwight, there's a broken mirror hanging on the wall. The crack runs straight through his reflection, splitting his face into two. It's a haunting image that says more than any line of dialogue could. It's as if the mirror is showing us the truth that Dwight is living a double life. One part is the leader who commands respect, and the other is the man slowly breaking inside. This visual clue subtly foreshadows the internal conflict that's about to consume him. Later, when Dwight meets his contact at the warehouse, there's a small moment that most viewers might miss. As the contact speaks nervously, Dwight's eyes land on a box in the corner stamped with a New York shipping code. It's just a few seconds of screen time, but it's crucial. That box connects Tulsa's underworld to Chickie's network. It's a quiet hint that Chickie isn't working from afar anymore. His influence has already reached Dwight's doorstep. That little detail becomes even more chilling once we realize that the missing man was last seen near that same warehouse. Even the way the camera follows Dwight tells a story. Throughout the episode, he's often filmed from behind or through glass, as if someone is always watching him. The audience becomes part of that feeling, trapped between seeing and not knowing. This cinematography choice isn't random. It mirrors Dwight's paranoia. He's constantly being observed, but he can't figure out by whom. It's a perfect blend of storytelling and symbolism, turning ordinary scenes into messages filled with unease. There's also a subtle change in color. Throughout episode 4, the earlier scenes are washed in warm amber tones, symbolizing control and stability. But as the story unravels, the color palette turns colder. Blues and grays dominate, especially in Dwight's scenes. It's as though the light is slowly being drained from his world. Even his bar, which once glowed with neon warmth, now feels like a cage of dim shadows. The show doesn't need to tell us that Dwight is losing grip. The visuals already scream it. Stacy's side of the story also carries clues that connect back to Dwight. When she visits the evidence locker, the camera lingers on a file marked Macadam Construction, the same company that helped Dwight set up one of his legit businesses in Tulsa. The moment passes quickly, but it's a signal. The FBI isn't far behind. They've started linking Dwight's operations to a wider network. And even though Stacy doesn't say it out loud, her body language, the deep breath, the hesitation tells us she's beginning to question whether protecting Dwight's secret was ever worth it. The use of sound in this episode adds another layer of meaning. During key moments, the background noise fades until we hear nothing but faint echoes, footsteps, wind, or a single dripping sound. It gives the sense that something invisible is approaching. For example, when Dwight sits alone watching the security footage, the only sound is the soft hum of the TV. Then, just before he sees the image of the missing man meeting Chickie's associate, there's a strange mechanical buzz, like a warning signal. Whether intentional or accidental, it creates a psychological tension that makes viewers feel like something is about to break. One of the most symbolic scenes happens near the end, when Dwight returns to his office and finds an old photograph on his desk. It's a picture of him and his crew from his early days in New York, smiling, younger, full of ambition. The photo wasn't there before. There's no note, no message, just the photo. But that's what makes it terrifying. Someone got close enough to leave it, and they wanted him to see it. The message is clear. We remember who you were. It's both a warning and a threat, and it ties directly into Chickie's subtle psychological warfare. But perhaps the most powerful hidden clue comes from Dwight himself. Throughout the episode, he keeps a silver lighter in his pocket, a small keepsake from his first years in the mob. In episode 4, we see him flick it open and closed repeatedly, especially when he's deep in thought. The flame lights up for a second and then disappears. It's a simple act, but symbolically rich. That lighter represents control, his ability to ignite chaos or extinguish it. By the end of the episode, when he sets it down on his desk and walks away, it's like he's silently admitting that control might no longer be his. Episode 4 is full of these quiet messages, no shouting, no grand gestures, just whispers of danger. The clues build on each other like layers of smoke. The more you look, the more you see. It's what makes this show so addictive. You're not just watching Dwight's story, you're decoding it. Every small object, every pause, every choice tells us that something bigger is coming. And as Dwight's world narrows, it's clear that the next episode won't just be about revenge. It'll be about survival against enemies he can't even see yet. The final stretch of Tulsa King Season 3, Episode 4 doesn't explode with bullets or blood. Instead, it burns slowly like a fuse, leading to something unstoppable. Everything that's been building throughout the episode finally ignites, and the true meaning of power, loyalty, and betrayal comes into focus. The ending isn't just about what Dwight does, it's about what he finally understands. For a man who's lived his whole life by control and rules, this is the moment where both start slipping through his fingers. The last act begins with Dwight driving toward the warehouse where the missing man was last seen. The streets are empty, the sky heavy with thunder. The silence feels like judgment, a reminder that every wrong choice eventually finds its way home. When he reaches the warehouse, the lights are off except for one flickering bulb. It's a haunting callback to the earlier scene where the truth first began to unravel. Dwight walks inside slowly, every step echoing through the hollow space. You can almost feel his heartbeat in the air. Then comes the confrontation. He finds the missing man, alive but terrified. The scene is quiet, almost too quiet. The man doesn't beg or explain. He just stands there, shaking, because he knows Dwight already understands what happened. Behind him, another figure steps out of the shadows, one of Dwight's own men. That's when the truth hits. It wasn't Chickie's men who caused this chaos. It was someone Dwight trusted, someone who sold him out from within. The way the betrayal unfolds isn't flashy. There's no shouting, no gunfire, just a cold conversation filled with unspoken history. Dwight asks one simple question. How much did he pay you? The traitor hesitates before answering. Enough to make me forget who I was. That line sums up the entire moral weight of Tulsa King. In this world, loyalty isn't about respect, it's about survival. Everyone has a price, even those who swear they don't. But the brilliance of this ending lies in how Dwight reacts. He doesn't explode in rage. He doesn't draw his gun. Instead, he looks at the man, takes a long breath, and walks away. It's not forgiveness, it's fatigue. The Dwight we see here isn't the mobster who once ruled through fear. He's an old lion realizing that even kings fall when the jungle changes. He's tired of killing ghosts, tired of building empires that always collapse. This moment transforms him more than any fight ever could. Back at his bar, the night drags on. Dwight sits alone again, the same way he did at the beginning of the episode. The symmetry is beautiful. It starts and ends in silence. But this time, the silence is heavier. On the counter lies the lighter he's carried for decades. He picks it up, flicks it once, and stares at the flame. It dances for a moment, then fades out as he closes it. That small act becomes the episode's emotional core. The flame that once represented his control is gone. What's left is just the man, stripped of everything but regret and instinct. Meanwhile, Stacy's final scene gives us another layer of meaning. She's in her apartment, going over the documents she found earlier. When she flips to the last page, she sees something unexpected. An old police file on Dwight's first arrest, marked with a recent date. Someone's been digging into his past again, and it's not her. The camera pans slowly to her face. She doesn't speak, but her expression says everything. The game has changed, and she's not sure which side she's on anymore. It's the show's way of telling us that the real battle isn't between Dwight and Chickie, it's between truth and survival. Between the past and the future. Then, just before the credits, comes the final twist. Dwight receives a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end is calm, deep, and familiar. It's Chickie. He says only one thing. You forgot who made you, Dwight. And then the line cuts. The episode ends right there. No music, no movement, just Dwight staring into the dark. The silence after those words is more powerful than any explosion. It's the sound of a man realizing that his past isn't finished with him. Everything Dwight built is slipping through his fingers. Episode 4 of Tulsa King Season 3 isn't just another chapter, it's a storm that tests his power, loyalty, and the ghosts of his past. When the episode begins, nothing feels safe anymore. Every deal, every ally, even every silence hides something dangerous. And as the tension rises in Tulsa, Dwight realizes that the real war isn't just on the streets, it's inside the people he trusts the most. Episode 4 opens with a calm that feels wrong. Like the silence before a gunshot, Dwight sits alone in his bar, the glow of neon lights flickering across his face. The bar is empty, yet his mind is full of thoughts about his growing empire and the enemies circling it. The calmness doesn't last long. A phone rings, and the voice on the other end brings trouble. One of his trusted men has gone missing, and with that one call, the chaos begins. From the start, the tone of the episode shifts between power and paranoia. Dwight, who once had complete control, now feels the walls closing in. He's trying to build something strong in Tulsa, something that can't be touched by old enemies or new threats. But episode 4 shows us that power always attracts attention, and attention always brings danger. The writers make this clear with every small detail: the way Dwight lights his cigar, the way he hesitates before answering questions, the way his crew looks at him with both respect and fear. As the episode moves forward, we see the cracks forming in Dwight's circle. Goons who once followed orders without question are now whispering in corners. The money is coming in, but loyalty is bleeding out. There's a new player in town. Someone we only hear about in small clues. A man connected to Chickie's operation back in New York. Dwight doesn't know the full story yet, but his instincts are screaming that someone is trying to pull the rug from under him. Meanwhile, Stacy's part in the story grows even more complicated. After her near downfall last season, she's walking a thin line between redemption and betrayal. In this episode, she gets closer to uncovering Dwight's recent deals, but something about her feels off. She's not just investigating, she's observing. Every move she makes feels personal, almost emotional. It's as if she's torn between duty and something deeper, maybe guilt, maybe unfinished feelings. The episode also gives us a glimpse of Tulsa's changing landscape. The small-town vibe we saw in Season 1 is gone. Now it feels like a city at war, with cops, gangsters, and businessmen all fighting for a slice of the pie. Dwight's empire has grown too fast, too loud, and the city is starting to notice. The camera work plays into this. Wide shots of the empty streets, dark alleys, and flashing police lights make Tulsa feel more dangerous than ever. Midway through the episode, Dwight meets with his crew to discuss the missing man. The conversation is short, cold, and filled with hidden meaning. One of his lieutenants suggests that maybe the man ran away with the money. Dwight doesn't buy it. His face hardens, his jaw tightens, and we can feel the anger burning inside him. He's not just angry about betrayal, he's angry about weakness. In Dwight's world, loyalty is everything. Once that breaks, nothing else matters. But what makes this episode truly powerful is the quiet tension. There are no huge explosions or loud shootouts at first. Instead, it's the words, the looks, the silence that build the suspense. Dwight isn't just fighting other gangsters. He's fighting time, trust, and the fear that his best days are behind him. Every scene reminds us that he's a man trying to stay relevant in a world that's changing faster than he can handle. By the end of the first half, a small clue changes everything. A security camera catches a glimpse of the missing man alive, meeting with someone from Chickie's crew. That moment sets the stage for the rest of the episode. Dwight doesn't react right away. He just stares at the footage, silent, his face calm but his eyes burning with rage. It's in that moment that we realize Dwight isn't going to let this slide. He's been betrayed, and when Dwight gets betrayed, blood always follows. Episode 4 doesn't rush. It takes its time, letting every scene breathe. It's full of tension that crawls under your skin. The writing is sharp, the pacing deliberate, and the stakes higher than ever. By the time the credits roll, you don't just want to see what happens next, you need to, because Tulsa King isn't just about crime or power anymore. It's about survival. And in this episode, survival comes with a price that Dwight might not be ready to pay. The tension that started with Dwight's missing man explodes in episode 4's middle section, turning quiet suspicion into open conflict. The story moves from the dark calm of the bar to the sharp chaos of the streets. Dwight begins to dig, and every clue he finds pulls him closer to the truth that his empire is being eaten from the inside. What makes this part so gripping isn't just the betrayal itself, but how it slowly reveals the kind of leader Dwight has become. He's no longer just the tough old-school mob boss we met in Season 1. Now, he's a man trying to rule in a world that's changing faster than his instincts can keep up. As he investigates, Dwight starts calling his men one by one, testing their loyalty without letting them know he's doing it. Every conversation feels like a poker game, each side hiding their real hand. The dialogue is calm on the surface but layered with meaning. When one of his crew members, Bodie, avoids eye contact during a conversation, Dwight doesn't say a word, but the camera lingers on his expression long enough for us to feel his suspicion. That single look says it all. Dwight doesn't trust anyone anymore. Meanwhile, Chickie is still pulling strings from New York. We hear about his moves through short phone calls and coded messages. He's not yelling or threatening. Instead, he's patient, calculating, waiting for Dwight to slip. Chickie knows that power doesn't always need violence. Sometimes it just needs time. And that's what makes him so dangerous. The writers use this dynamic to build quiet dread. Dwight might be strong, but Chickie is smart, and in this episode, intelligence begins to outweigh muscle. One of the most memorable scenes in this section happens when Dwight meets with an old contact, a man who once owed him a favor. The meeting takes place in a deserted warehouse, with flickering lights and rain leaking through the roof. It feels like a throwback to classic mob storytelling, but with a modern twist. The contact hesitates to talk, scared that Chickie's men might be watching. When he finally opens up, he reveals that someone in Dwight's crew has been selling information. That moment hits like a gut punch. Dwight doesn't explode with rage. Instead, he goes quiet, thinking, planning. His silence feels louder than any gunshot back at the bar. The mood changes completely. The crew senses Dwight's shift in tone, colder, sharper, more suspicious. Conversations stop when he walks in. Everyone suddenly remembers their loyalty. But Dwight isn't fooled. He knows fear isn't loyalty. It's just borrowed time. The writing here is masterful. The silence in the room tells us that Dwight's empire isn't united anymore. It's fractured. The man who once inspired respect now rules through intimidation. And in the world of Tulsa King, that's the beginning of the end. The episode also gives more attention to Stacy. She's following a separate thread that unexpectedly connects to Dwight's mess. She finds a document linking one of Dwight's business fronts to a new money trail coming from New York. What's fascinating is how her expression shifts when she realizes it. It's not excitement, it's worry. She's beginning to see how deep the corruption runs. And she knows that going after Dwight might not be as simple as she once thought. The show uses her as the moral mirror to Dwight, both trying to do the right thing in their own twisted ways, both trapped in systems that eat good intentions alive. There's also a short but powerful moment with Dwight's daughter. She calls him, frustrated that he hasn't been answering. Her tone is cold, filled with disappointment rather than anger. It reminds us that Dwight's war isn't just with enemies, it's with the life he's chosen. Every lie he tells to protect his empire costs him another piece of his real life. When the call ends, the camera stays on him, alone in his dark office, and for a few seconds, we see the man beneath the boss, tired, lonely, and trapped in a cage of his own making. By this point, the story feels like a chess game where every move costs someone their trust. The pacing picks up, and the tension builds with every scene. Dwight's suspicion grows heavier when he learns that the missing man's phone was last pinged near a warehouse owned by one of his associates. That's when Dwight's instincts take over. He decides to handle it himself. No more talking, no more guessing. He's going to find out who's been leaking information, even if it means breaking every rule he's made since coming to Tulsa. The section ends with a scene that perfectly sums up the mood of episode 4. Dwight drives alone through the empty streets, the night sky reflected in his windshield. The city looks silent, but underneath it, everything is burning. He doesn't know yet who betrayed him, but he knows it's someone close, maybe too close. As the engine hums and the city lights flicker, the voice in his head grows louder. In Tulsa, trust is just another weapon. And in episode 4, Dwight's about to learn what happens when the weapon turns back on him.